Welcome, everyone, to a brand new week of the Media Row podcast with me, Justin Miller. Happy to have everyone along here as we wrap up a eventful weekend in sports. We had golf action. We had College World Series. Oh, yeah, we also had Game 7 of the NBA Finals where the Oklahoma City Thunder win their first franchise NBA championship, taking down the Pacers 103-91. And we'll get to all of that. But first, a huge thank you to everyone who has commented, liked, subscribed, and rated, all that good stuff. So thank you to all the listeners. And thank you to our sponsors in Kelly's Little Nipper and Stevens Automotive and Sales. It was a fun weekend for me. Helped my dad move. Actually went through his closet and got a few more shirts. I actually had my own. If you're just listening on Spotify, this is a Wrigley Field Pearl Jam shirt from 2013. No, we did not go to that concert, but it's a cool looking shirt, so we definitely got shirts. But mine I grew out of, and so my dad he wasn't wearing his, so I raided his closet as we're helping him move, and went through, found this one. This is a good one, a good Social Distortion band T-shirt. A few of our Colorado shirts from our hikes and Manitou Incline and Pikes Peak, all that good stuff. So I had a fun weekend with the family. Hope you guys had a fun weekend. But before we get to, of course, all of our action that we have on the show today, let's give a shout out to Kelly's Little Nipper over at 1701 East Grand Avenue in Des Moines. Historic Kelly's Little Nipper. Again, I keep telling you guys this. First off, the three big keys of why you go there is great food, great drink, and even better community. You get live music, you have trivia nights, it has everything you would want. But if you don't believe me, just go to their Facebook page. Again, Jeff and the crew over at Kelly's Little Nipper does a great job on their social media of just really showing the attitude of Kelly's Little Nipper on camera and just having a good time. And you can experience that good time any time of the week over there at Kelly's Little Nipper, 1701 East Grand Avenue in Des Moines. I love having them a part of the Media Row action, and hopefully I will see you guys there at Kelly's Little Nipper. Still getting people who listen to the show commenting. My buddy JD Snover putting out photos over the weekend and saying how great the food is. We have Bobby Innes, who is a good friend of mine, talking about how he's going there. Devin from DKG Images, he was going there. I had everybody going to Kelly's Little Nipper. Sadly, I wasn't able to join them, but I will be there soon enough, and hopefully I will see you guys there too. Kelly's Little Nipper, 1701 East Grand Avenue in Des Moines. When you go there, make sure to let them know that Media Row sent you. So like we said, huge, exciting weekend in sports, and we have a lot to get to on the show. No interview today, but of course listen till the end of the show and we'll give you a quick preview of who you could expect being on with me on Wednesday on the Media Row podcast. But we're gonna, of course, talk about Game 7, kind of the ups and downs with that game. I have more downs than I have ups in that game, and I'm not a fan of either squad. Yeah, if you're following me on Twitter and if you've been listening to the show, I have been more on the Pacer side because I live in Iowa and Haliburton has been a great story. But it is always cool, and I think it's great for the NBA whenever you have two squads going head-to-head that have never won. I think it's really good for the sport, for any sport, when you have that kind of action. But so we'll get with the Game 7 of the NBA Finals. We had crazy NBA trade news, which involves a mega superstar and future Hall of Famer, which I think is actually a lose-lose for both teams. We'll get to that as well. We'll do a quick recap of the College World Series and then a quick recap of golf over this weekend because it was a blast. The Travelers Championship was so fun to watch. These past 2 weeks of golf have been truly electric. But let's get to it. The NBA Finals last night, Game 7 in Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City Thunder take down Indiana 103-91 to win their first NBA title. And man, going in, a lot of hype. First Game 7 for the NBA Finals since that historic 2016 where the Cavs took down Golden State 3-1 and came back from that series deficit. And you had the LeBron block. You had so many moments. Kyrie's shot. I remember going to school the next day and it just being everyone talking about it. Everyone was talking about it. And this one had a lot of hype, two teams trying to find their first franchise title victory. You have some really young names that are really exciting. You have SGA for the Thunder, Tyrese Haliburton. These have been fun games to watch. And even though Indiana may not have a great defense, you have Oklahoma City, who's a great defense. But Indiana will never be out of it with the offensive firepower that they have. And it was a dud. The NBA Finals was a dud. For it being the first Game 7 since 2016 in that historic series comeback from the Cavs and Golden State, dud. And we all knew it, I really think, when Tyrese went down. Tyrese Haliburton, of course, the star, the hero for the Indiana Pacers, goes down with under 5 minutes to go in the first half. And the Pacers were down 2. He drives on that left wing, and he was playing with already a strained calf and ends up tearing his Achilles and is out for the rest of the game. And from right there, I think a lot of people watching were worried with the Thunder's defensive presence and the stars that they have on their offensive side of the ball. This looks like it could get ugly real fast. And Tyrese was playing good, 9 points in the first 7 minutes. He was playing really good, and your heart just sank. But the game itself, it fooled us in the first half. It had us in the first half because despite Haliburton really not being able to put any sort of pressure on that leg, gets carried into the locker room, the Pacers responded. It fooled us where we're all worried about SGA's just going to dominate now. And the Pacers actually led at half. They were up 48-47. Despite the Thunder having a good offense, they couldn't make a 3 to save their life. Indiana actually was only outscored in that first quarter after Tyrese went out only by 3. So they weren't getting run off the court. And like we said, the Thunder went 4 of 18 from deep. Indiana shot really well without their main shooter, 8 of 16. And even though the turnovers were really a blatant issue for Indiana early on, I mean, they were right there. Siakam had 10 points, and this Pacers team was keeping up. But, man, did it turn south. And this is when the game just became a dud. In the second half, Pacers, just way too many turnovers. 23 turnovers in the game to Oklahoma City's 8. They get outscored in the third quarter, 34-20. And the Thunder just roll easily in that second half. SGA, 29 points, 12 assists, only 1 turnover, 11 of 12 from the free throw line. And we know how good he has been all year long in the regular season of getting to that free throw line, causing defenders to leave their feet, really getting to that charity stripe. And Jalen Williams comes on the scene for the Thunder and scores 20 points and helps out. And while McConnell really tried his best with the Pacers, he was the only guy. I think he had the last 10 points in that third quarter for Indiana as a team. And Siakam, nowhere to be found in the second half. Only 6 points in that second half. And so just with all the hype going into this Game 7, the 2 best words in sports, Game 7, it was a dud. And I think the NBA needs to look at this and make some tweaks and get back to what they did best with the finals 5 years ago. And just get back to making this a spectacle. because you look, Silver's making the in-season tournament more of a spectacle than the NBA Finals. The best part of this NBA Finals, outside of just being an Iowan and being biased and loving the Haliburton story, was NBA Twitter bullying the NBA into finally putting something on the court and putting a little patch on the back of their uniforms that says NBA Finals. But other than that, they didn't make it feel like a huge thing. You know, we all talk about how we miss the trophy in the mid-court. We all miss that look. And it's okay that you don't have to do that, but if you're doing it for the in-season tournament, why not for the NBA Finals? They need to make this bigger. They need to promote this better. You go into that game and they're showing the crowd at Oklahoma City. That was a good crowd. And you had a lot of Indiana fans there too. So that was going to be a really cool atmosphere. Now the game just was a letdown, so you didn't really feel that back and forth as much as you would want. But they show Adam Silver, and I remember as a kid, like David Stern would smile or go, wow, you know, but man, they caught Silver multiple times just looking like a ghost in the stands. And I think the game was a dud. I've said that multiple times. I'm sorry. The promotion was kind of weak. The attraction was very weak, and they get bullied into finally putting something on the court. So I think there's a lot to learn. With that being said, the good of this finals, you have two teams. Someone was going to win their first NBA Finals championship. Thunder, of course, being a team from the Supersonics, they have an NBA championship, that organization, but Oklahoma City hadn't seen one. So you have that. You have all those young players, SGA, Tyrese Haliburton. You have a lot of good young guys on these two teams. Chet Holmgren. And what's really cool, too, is it's all eternal. I mean, for the most part, not a lot of trades. I know Haliburton came from Sacramento, but come on, he was told he was the most overrated player. So that's not a super team trade right there. SGA was drafted. Chet Holmgren was drafted. So I think there was a lot of good that showed in this finals. It was just the game, the main game, Game 7, just didn't live up to the hype. And it really, truly started with that Tyrese Haliburton injury. Was right there. He injures his calf, tears his Achilles, and it kills the momentum because right away Thunder have a huge advantage now. But I think the main concern to wrap up our NBA Finals talk is they need to promote it better. I hope next year we get more of what the in-season tournament gets. And I'm not a fan of that in-season tournament whatsoever. And they promote the hell out of it because it's brand new. But I get that. It's a business. But promote your biggest asset, which is the NBA Finals. You see the NFL promoting the hell out of the Super Bowl and making that a spectacle year after year. Sure, the games can be boring. Last year's Super Bowl, it was boring Super Bowl, but it's still a must watch. And I had so many friends, so many coworkers that would just walk around and go, oh yeah, that's tonight. And that's bad for the NBA. But Thunder win 103-91. Oh, I should check. You guys were doing a great job of joining in, and we put out a poll of who would win the NBA Finals. And let's see how many people were wrong, how many people were right. Again, thank you guys so much for interacting. 38% said the Thunder were going to win, so 38% of you clearly listening to this show and just not taking what I say, and that's probably a smart thing to do. The Pacers, like me, I thought the Pacers were going to win. 62% of you said the Pacers. But again, thank you guys so much for contributing and wanting to be a part of this Media Row team. I really appreciate it, and it's always fun to see. So, moving on from the NBA Finals, sticking with that NBA topic, though, a huge trade, blockbuster trade, which honestly, I read it, and it threw me for a loop. I didn't know you could trade, I guess, this late. I thought you had to wait, honestly, until the season was over, and then you could start the trades. I thought there was like a cutoff in the playoffs, but that's just me being dumb, I guess. But Kevin Durant, future Hall of Famer, is leaving Phoenix to go to the Houston Rockets, and Houston gives up a lot. Houston gives up Jalen Green, a young star, Dylan Brooks, a number 10 first-round pick, and 5 second-round picks. I think this is a lose-lose. One, KD is not the player he used to be. Still very talented. Still one of the better players in the league. There was a rumor he could have gone to my team, the San Antonio Spurs, and you bet I would have been excited if we didn't, if we had to give up 5 second-round picks, or if they had to give up, Wembanyama or any of those young guys. Yeah, I'd be upset. So I was kind of on edge. But it's a lose-lose. I think Houston, you're giving up a lot for a guy that needs another star player around him. Why was he successful in OKC? Because he had Westbrook. I mean, he was the better player than Westbrook, but he wasn't the only one. Why did he win a ring with Golden State? Oh, because that team was a dream team. That was Steph at his all-time. That was Clay at his all-time. That whole team was all-time. And then he leaves. And then he goes to Brooklyn. Oh, why was he successful in Brooklyn? And why did they almost beat the Bucks if his shoes weren't size 18s? Because he had Kyrie and he had Harden. And then he was successful with Phoenix. Why was he successful in Phoenix and go to the finals and lose to the Bucks there? Because he had Chris Paul and Brooks. I mean, he needs other people around him, and Houston, I think, gave up Jalen Green, who could have helped, and just there's not another star around him. And then, if you're Phoenix, man, yeah, you get a lot of draft picks. You get a number 10 first-round pick for next year. You get 5 second-round picks. The future, that's fine. But for right now, you don't need that many guards. They really are now kind of too blocked up in the backcourt with Jalen Green. And so I just don't understand this trade. This really felt to me like when I read it that it's just now, hey, we're the Houston Rockets. Maybe we're not going to be super competitive, but at least we can make a boatload of money. We're going to get a bunch of money for KD jerseys. We're going to get the stadium, the arena packed to see KD, a future Hall of Famer. That's all what it feels to me. And so that's my take on the Kevin Durant trade. I really do believe it's a lose-lose for both the Rockets and the Suns. And so we'll see what happens. Again, you guys who have been listening to the show from the start understand I am a Spurs fan. I'm a casual NBA fan, though. I don't watch every NBA game. I'm more of a college basketball guy. I love college basketball and NFL, so I'm watching those more during NBA regular season. And then during playoffs, I mean, it's getting nicer outside. Baseball's starting up, so I get more into golf and baseball in the summer than I do NBA playoffs. Like this NBA playoffs, I was very off and on. Finals, I of course were more attentive to, but yeah, NBA I think just has some work ahead of him for next season. Adam Silver has some work ahead of him, and it'll be interesting to see what happens with that Kevin Durant trade. So that'll wrap up our NBA talk. Congrats to any Oklahoma City Thunder fans out there listening to the show. Congrats on your first championship. Any Pacer fans, and I know a lot of people who are like me, who just live in Iowa. If you're a Hawkeye or Cyclone, Bulldog or Panther, the Haliburton story was amazing, and you do feel sick to your stomach seeing him go down. So hopefully a quick recovery for that star guard, and hopefully we'll see him back in that spotlight again, because, man, that game feels like it'd be a lot different. There wouldn't be 23 turnovers by the Pacers if Haliburton was the one bringing it up the court. But let's move on to the College World Series. We talked briefly last week about the College World Series as the Missouri Valley Conference team, the Murray State Racers, were in it for a while but lose to LSU. LSU, though, they win their second in 3 years, their second title in 3 years against Coastal Carolina in Game 2 of a best-of-3 series, 5-3, eighth College World Series victory and title for the school. They're 8-1 all time in the College World Series. But really, the story wasn't the Tigers continuing their dominance in the College World Series and just owning that city of Omaha in the last 3 years. The story was really happened right away. It was similar to Haliburton, where you're watching that game and you see this happen in the first inning and you go, oh, LSU has this game now. Like, Haliburton goes down. Everyone was texting in my buddy's group chat, oh, Thunder have it now. And this felt very similar. So if you missed it, the story of the College World Series Game 2 happened in the first inning, top of the first. Coastal Carolina head coach Kevin Schnall and first base head coach Matt Schilling ejected, just arguing with refs. You have umps, and you have an umpire fall and trip and do a somersault. There was chaos, and both of them get ejected right away. And which, I mean, I watched it a couple of times. It'd be really interesting to know what he said. But in like the ump, it didn't look like anyone was shoving. It looked like he legit just was backpedaling and tripped over himself. So I don't think that caused for an ejection. But all I could really make of it was that Schnall was just really upset about the missed calls, and he goes out there and yells at the ump, and it just gets escalated to a point where LSU then has all the momentum. And it wasn't one of those where, you know, sometimes you hear in football or definitely in basketball, you hear of a coach getting a technical or even sometimes ejected. You'll hear people be like, oh, trying to get the team pumped. You don't do that in the first inning of an elimination game in the College World Series. So just kind of, it would be interesting to know exactly what was said. We will never know exactly what was said by both sides, but just what led to such a quick ejection. And the Tigers, like everybody expected, just took over and never looked back. Tigers led 5-1 through 4 innings. Coastal Carolina's starting pitcher in Luke Morrison only lasted 3 2/3 innings, gave up all 5 runs, and you had LSU really defensively taking over. They gave up a 2-run home run, I think, in the 7th inning, and that made the score look a little closer, but you still, as a fan watching, of just a fan of baseball watching, as I'm not an LSU or Coastal Carolina fan, you just had it in your gut that, okay, that's going to make the scoreboard look closer, but that's not going to tell the story of the game. So LSU wins the College World Series 5-3 in 2 games, winning their second title in 3 years, 8th school title, as they just own Omaha here in the last 3 years. So that's our College World Series talk. And next year for this podcast, I do want to try to get more with the Iowa baseball team because they had another good season. They didn't make it to the College World Series, but definitely want to try to get, of course, more college baseball talk next year in the show, as well as we're still trying to figure out everything on this show. Next week, I think, will definitely be a unique week as I have some cool news to share with people, but it won't be a typical week, and we like having that. That's why I named this show Media Row, to have this like evergreen type of show where we can talk about everything, and we can go from NBA Finals to College World Series to right now. We're going to talk some golf because the Travelers Championship was unreal, electric. The past 2 weeks of golf kudos to the PGA Tour. One, if you're still a PGA versus Live guy, I mean, the PGA is kicking ass right now in the month of June because the U.S. Open, a blast. I mean, golfers, the best in the world, shooting over par, and it's still being an amazing tournament. You have a guy like J.J. Spawn go on that amazing run, and it's a great story, an easy guy to cheer for. Then you go into the next week where the U.S. Open had a lot of names that maybe people weren't familiar with. You go into the Travelers Championship this week, and it's an all-star match where you're seeing Tommy Fleetwood, Keegan Bradley. Oh, McIlroy's at 11 under. Scheffler's up there at 13 under. I mean, there were names all over the place in this tournament, and it was great to watch. It was great for golf. But in the final, you have Tommy Fleetwood, and going into, what would that be, the 16th hole? Going into with a 2-shot lead, and he bogeys 2 of the final 3 holes, the biggest one being the final hole on 18th. His second approach shot comes up short, chips it short of the hole, didn't get a great roll. Keegan Bradley, on the other hand, his second approach shot lands about 4 or 5 feet from the cup. Looks like he has an easy birdie shot. So all Fleetwood has to do, who has been leading all day long in trying to secure his first tour championship, all he has to do is put in this par putt, and he's about a few inches behind Keegan Bradley's ball. Put this in, and it's a playoff between him and Bradley, and his ball misses the cup by an inch. And a lot of people on social media, if you go back and watch it, looks like that ball hit something on the green to really cause an issue and cause it to spin a different direction, which was interesting to watch. But he misses his putt. He bogeys it. That is what makes his second of 3 holes with a bogey. And then Keegan Bradley, in a 2-score swing, is able to putt in his birdie and win. And Keegan Bradley now 8th in the PGA Tour rankings. Tommy Fleetwood, man, does your heart go out to that guy. So this stat I saw on CBS where Tommy Fleetwood, going into this tournament, 41 tournaments, this guy has finished in the top 10 without a win. This now makes it 42 tournaments where Fleetwood has finished in the top 10 without a win. That is the most in the PGA Tour since 1983. And he's right there. A few missed putts, and that putts go an inch to the opposite side, and it's a different story. And your heart just goes out for him. But PGA Tour as a whole, kudos. What an amazing week of golf. What an amazing 2 weeks. And then we're going to blink, and we're going to have the 4th and final major of the Open coming up here soon as well. But that will do it here today on the Media Row podcast. Thank you guys again so much. A lot of NBA Finals talk, NBA talk as we finish up the NBA season, College World Series and golf talk. Hope you enjoyed it. And before we finish up today's show, of course, need to give a shout out to Stevens Automotive and Sales. Stevens Automotive and Sales, 5320 Northwest Beaver Drive in Johnston, Iowa. Great people. 35 years of family owned and operated in the state. They are true Iowans, and those are the people you want to be dealing with, as they're just good souls, people that are hardworking and going to make sure your car's done on time and in a safely manner. Also, I mean, they're the people I trust the most because they communicate so efficiently. There's no BS with Stevens. So I tell everyone to go to this place. I got my girlfriend going to this place. I got family members going to this place. My mom's been going there for 20 plus years. And my brother, who lives out of the state, still talks about how lucky we were to be able to go to Stevens Automotive and have such a trusting place from such an early age. As being high school drivers, not knowing what we're doing, I still don't know what I'm doing half of the time. That's why I give it to Stevens Automotive, 5320 Northwest Beaver Drive in Johnston, Iowa. Next week, Megan and I are headed to Missouri for July 4th. We'll definitely have the car checked up over at Stevens before we hit the road. So Stevens Automotive, check them out, 5320 Northwest Beaver Drive in Johnston, Iowa. When you do, make sure to let them know that Media Row sent you. Thank you guys again so much. Make sure to comment, like, subscribe, rate, all that good stuff. We will see you on Wednesday as Tommy Birch of the Des Moines Register joins us on the show to talk a little Iowa Cubs baseball and even more. See you guys on Wednesday on the Media Row podcast.